How do you batch your content? And what does that actually even mean? What does it mean to batch content? These are questions that I get asked all the time whenever it comes to creating content for a podcast or a YouTube channel or your email list, social media, your website, like wherever you're creating content. I get so many questions about how you do this without pulling your hair out and losing your sanity. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through a little bit about batching your content. So let's get right to it. Hey y'all, Crystal here today to talk to you about batching your content. Now, first and foremost, we got to talk about what is batching? What does that actually mean? It really means that you're sitting down to create something that is going to be either multiple pieces of content or your batch planning, your batch editing, batch recording, batch publishing. Like we're going to get into all of these things today, but I think it's just really important that you think about you're not just sitting down and creating something one time. You are optimizing your time to make the most out of it. And as a busy mom of 3 and a business owner and someone that wants to just show up very intentionally with my life, batching has made all the difference. As I'm recording this right now, I'm actually planning on taking spring break with my family, and I'm in the process of batching several YouTube videos, a few podcast episodes, and thinking about, well, what am I actually going to be publishing once I'm out of the office? Because things will continue to run whenever I'm gone on vacation, but I want to keep up that consistent content, and batching allows me to do it. But if you haven't already, make sure you check out this video right here where I talk about how I batch podcast episodes. Even if you're interested in creating YouTube videos, the process is the same. I really take 5 different tasks that I do within my podcast, and I'm able to really make sure that I'm accomplishing all the important things that need to happen in the content creation process for the podcast. So make sure you go check that out. Super, super important. But today I want to show you a little bit behind the scenes of how I batch content today, because things have changed slightly as I've continued to grow my presence and produce more content outside of just my podcast. This is the Profit Podcast, my weekly show that you can go check out wherever you listen to podcasts. We talk about content creation and helping online business owners really make sure that they are creating content with confidence. So make sure you go check that out. But ever since I've had my podcast and I started creating and publishing more videos on YouTube, I'm like, man, I have to batch in order to produce at the volume that I produce content. Because as of right now, when I'm recording this video, I'm putting out 2 podcast episodes a week for the Profit Podcast. I put out 5 daily episodes. So 1 episode Monday through Friday for the Potty Report. You can go check this out. This is my daily podcast. These are 5 minutes or less, so it's pretty easy to batch this type of content. I'm also publishing 3 videos here on YouTube, as well as sending out a weekly newsletter, posting on my social platforms, and just creating content in a lot of places, even in our free Facebook group. I'm going to link to it below. That way you can come join us over there. There's over 1,000 creators in this community, and we have so much fun. But this is a lot of content. Like maybe you're just now getting into the content creation biz and you're like, holy crap, I don't know that I can sign up to do this. This sounds so overwhelming. This is not how I started. I did not start creating content and batching content at this volume. I have been at it for a while, but because I do produce so much, I have a lot of processes in place that can help you no matter where you are on your journey. So let's go to the computer and I'm going to show you a little behind the scenes of the tools that I use and how I really set things up to make sure when I do have the time to sit down and batch content, I'm making the most out of it. So let's go and I'm going to show you. So first and foremost, I can't do anything without Asana. This is my project management tool that I always talk about here on the channel. You can check out a few of these videos right here, and you can also go to crystalprofit.com/Asana to try it out for free. But I love this project management software because it allows me to see at a glance what is due. We are in the month of March whenever I'm recording this video, and I can look at a glance and see, okay, I have to create a podcast episode. I need to create a YouTube video. I have to create some posts for our Facebook group as well as a weekly email. So in order to look at this at a snapshot, I did have to create this. It is a little laborious, time-consuming up front, but I do most of this at the beginning of the year. I kind of just lay it out as this is one of my tasks that I have to do. It's kind of like your taxes, right? You have to do them every year. And in order for me to be successful, I have realized I need to be able to see at a glance what is due and when. And so by setting this up, what I love about it is I can come over here and I can just look at the incomplete tasks. That's the view we're in. So if you're in Asana and you see a bunch of like, oh, these are all checked off, just come up here and click on incomplete tasks and you'll be able to see what is due or what is upcoming. And then I have a few different ways that I will view information whenever I'm getting in batching mode. And one of those ways is I like to look at it by due date because that tells me in real time what is due. And you can see over here that I assign everything to myself. Like I don't have a full team of people where I would say, oh, this goes to the VA and this goes to a social media team. No, it all falls on me and that's okay. I'm fine with it because I really enjoy the way that this process works. But if you did have a team, then you could assign specific tasks like social media post, or maybe it's the thumbnails for your YouTube channel or whatever it is that you're outsourcing. You can label those to the different assignees within Asana. Again, another reason why I love it so much. But when I'm batching content, it's not super helpful to see this by due date. Once I kind of get a snapshot, what I like to do is I come over here to task name and I sort it alphabetically because that lets me see, oh, these are all the podcast episodes that I have to do in the month of March. There's actually a few more that I've already published because we're a little into the month, but at a glance, I can see, okay, I could, if I had time to batch 3 or 4 podcast episodes, that would put me into the middle of March and I would be pretty set on the content that I needed to create. Or I could look at the Friday action items that we have to post in our Facebook group. These are little pieces of content that I really don't share anywhere else. It's just in our Facebook group. Sometimes it's me sharing a great resource that I know about or a piece of content that I think our group would find helpful. So I will post those in there. So if I wanted to sit down and batch all of the group posts for our Facebook group, I could do that. I could go in here, write them out, and then schedule them in my software tool that I use to schedule out my social post. So let's go down here as well, because then I have my weekly emails. I could go in, write my weekly emails right in here, and you can see it already has the date of when all of these are due. And you can see it's a little out of order because it says, Friday, then the 18th. You can always resort these by due date and then alphabetically. But what it's giving me at a snapshot is everything that is due. So I can see all of these YouTube videos. Once they're complete, I could come over here and check them off the list because now I know, okay, that one is done. I can move on to the next video that I need to create. So I use Asana to plan out the content as well as have reference points because I will use a lot of my notes that you see in Asana. If you've watched this video right here on how I create my content, I use Google Sheets and Asana together, then you'll know I do a lot of the planning inside Asana that will eventually become the show notes for my podcast and the video descriptions for my YouTube video, what you're watching right now. And so I think it's really important that you have one central location where you keep a lot of this information. But let's go up here because maybe you're more of someone who thinks better in a calendar mindset. You can actually go up here to I'm in this same content calendar project, and I can click on calendar. So if I wanted to look at, okay, you know, I'm right here and I need to batch out so much content because I'm going to be going out of town in 3 weeks. Let's pretend that on April 1st, I'm going to be going out of town and I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. What content would I need to batch up to that point? Now, this is for those of you that are thinking you only have one podcast episode, maybe one YouTube video, and an email. Let's keep it super simple. So 3 pieces of content for 1 week. Then you could do that easily here. You could lay out how you want everything to be, like when you're going to publish. Maybe you publish your podcast on Tuesday, you publish your YouTube video on Friday, and you send out your email on Wednesday. I don't know, I'm totally just making this up. But you could formulate your whole ASANA project based on when you publish content. That way you can see at a glance, okay, if I'm going to batch, these are all the things that are due. This is what I need to work on. This is what I need to focus on. And that really helps me get in the headspace of not just, oh my God, I'm going out of town. I have to create a whole bunch of content. I have very specific things I need to work on, that I need to plan out, that I need to record, that I'll need to edit, that I'll need to schedule and publish and market. Like, these are the important things that you have to focus on whenever you're batching. But the most important thing, and lean in a little bit whenever I say this, because this is so important. When you are batching content, the entire point of the whole thing is to not have you switching from recording something to editing to scheduling to creating show notes and then like doing all the things. No. If that is how you're batching content, you're going about it the wrong way. What I want you to do instead is to batch plan. So use ASANA, use a notebook. I don't use a Post-it note. I don't care how you plan your content, but I want you to sit down and plan multiple episodes. Like, do all this in an analog format or use a Google Doc, but I want you to do all the planning in one sitting. One time, like set a timer for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however long you need to plan your content. But sit down and do all the planning in one time, because what this is teaching your brain is, hey, we're going to focus on this one activity, and it's planning. We're not recording. We're not messing with video equipment and microphones. And like, we are just thinking, and we are taking ideas that we're eventually going to turn into a piece of content. And then from there, you go to record the content. This is what I do. Whenever I'm recording a podcast episode, I'm looking at notes that I already created. I could have created them weeks ago. I could have created them a few days ago, but it's not something that I sit down and I go through all of this like labored thinking, like, okay, this is what I want to say and this is what I want to do. Okay, now I got to record it. Okay, now I got to edit it. Like, that's exhausting. It's super exhausting. So I want you to plan content, batch plan, batch record your content, and then I want you to either batch edit everything. Again, this is kind of like the task that you're doing. It helps if you batch edit multiple podcast episodes, because you're already in that mind frame of like, okay, I'm actively listening. Either if you have on headphones, I'm pointing to my headphones like you can see them. My big headphones that I only use for editing, I will put those on. And if I already have those on and I'm like, okay, I'm listening very intently. By the way, I edit on 2x whenever I edit my podcast episodes. Little fun fact there. You should try it if you've never done that. But I listen at 2x speed, and I'm really just listening for those big mistakes or maybe those pieces that I can cut out super easily. But I can edit 3 or 4 podcast episodes maybe in a 2-hour period, but then I'm done. I'm done for a while. I don't have to do the same thing over and over and over again. If you've ever heard people say, oh, I'm on the content creation hamster wheel, I think that comes from people that are planning, recording, editing, publishing, planning, recording, editing, publishing. It's a Groundhog Day effect, and you're constantly doing it. No wonder people burn out, because they are so freaking overwhelmed with the process. Batching can change that. Batching can make you feel so much more confident. And let's be honest, if you get a really awesome system down, you could create content in 2 or 3 days a month and be done. You don't have to create content every week. You don't have to stress yourself out. You don't have to get dressed and get your hair done and put on your makeup and do all the things. You could just look good a few days a month and say, you know what? I'm just going to batch a whole bunch of videos because I feel good today. I'm dressed. I have on actual pants and I'm going to make this happen. So this is how I want you thinking about batching your content. It's just changing the frame of mind. Instead of saying, how many different tasks can I fit into a specific amount of time? I want you to think of how many specific tasks can I fit into this designated period that allows me to keep doing the same thing for the max amount of time before I switch to something else. So I want to know what questions you have about batching content. Do you have questions about podcasts, about YouTube videos, about writing emails or blog posts or social media posts? Tell me in the comments below. I would love to hear your questions about batching content. But that's all I have for you today. So make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe below if you have not already. And make sure you check out these other videos right here, all about creating content and running your online business. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.